Report. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
Insert Democrat socialist here.
Runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when you're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy, and we're talking about this case involving the dog killer who was given a walk by Cook County Circuit Court Associate Judge Mary Catherine Marubio. Know a little bit more about her. When she was selected to be an associate judge, because that's how it would work. I mean, we could talk about elections and retention votes, but you're selected by the powers that be, the Madigans and the Burks, and then you're installed. She was an administrative law judge for the Department of Financial and Professional Regulation before this. She is a professed lesbian, which is great.
Oh, I love does she have a coming out story she'd like to share with us?
It's truly a life-changing event being slated for the Cook County Circuit Court. I'll never be a lawyer again. It's such a part of my identity. I've been practicing just under 20 years, such a big part of my daily life. You lose your first name, you're judge to everybody now. Not to me, Mary Catherine. But anyway, she goes on to say,
yes,
I explored running in my sub-circuit running countywide through my application and on the associate track because I felt ready. Everything came together. She has long been active in LGBT causes, has served on the board of the ACLU of Illinois. She's also chair of the Trans Legal Advisory Board of Chicago, the Trans Legal Advisory Board for the Chicago House and Social Service Agency's Trans Life Center. It's a big title. It's good for people in front of me as a judge to know that the circuit court is bit by bit more reflective of the community as a whole. Asian judges, blind judges, queer judges. It's a place where difference is understood. I aim for inclusiveness in my courtroom. That's my goal. You're welcome here, and there's respect for language, and you're going to have your day in court. She mentioned her gratitude to LGBTQ2S+++ judges who are already on the bench, help me navigate this process, showed me unwavering support, and I'm the sum of 20 years of their work. And all that now is being brought to bear on behalf of you, Chicago residents, who, when she does things like give this dog killer with a mini arsenal in his backpack a walk. See, this is what I was saying when Corey and Woodlawn talking about the chaos here and saying, well, this is a money play from the feds for these Chicago Pauls. I don't think so. I think the money will come. And I don't think they really need the money. I mean, I don't think they view it this way. I think it's the coalition, the power, who's being distributed the spoils of war and will find the money. We'll extract it from whoever we need to extract it, as you heard Brandon Johnson more or less saying during his candidacy for mayor. It's this identitarian solidarity and marginality play that's never ending. And here's Mary Catherine Marubio, the judge, doing her part to pay it forward by giving this 19-year-old dog killer a walk. Interesting case study, isn't it? Ted Dabrowski, president of Wirepoints, wirepoints.org, joins us now. Ted, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy.
You guys have been studying up on a lot of this, the updated data on 911 calls, for example. So on the one hand, we have, year over year, again, about half the 911 calls in Chicago go unresponded to by police. And on the other hand, we have the Prisco Purge Law in full effect now, and the people who are accused of crimes be given a walk right back into the public.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big problem is that, we're not arresting anybody. The arrest rate for these major crimes are at 5%. So first of all, nobody's being arrested. And then, if something is going on, at least half of the urgent 911 calls, there's not police available to respond. I mean, literally people are calling 911 and they have these blackout periods where there's no police available to respond. So nobody shows up to half. I mean, think about that. And we're talking about stabbings, we're talking about shootings, we're talking about crimes in the middle of a process, and these crimes that aren't being answered are serious crimes where if the police shows up, it can make a difference, or somebody's imminent threat to life is going on. So then you get to the other part where now with the purge law, you get people who are arrested. Those very few that are arrested, well, they're just going to go through a revolving door because, look, we have to be clear. The Safety Act was about reducing the amount of people who can be held, reducing the amount of people who are in jail. Net, fewer people in jail. We're talking about alleged criminals. We're talking about alleged criminals with felonies, dangerous felonies. They're back out on the street. So it can only mean bad. It can't be good. It can only mean bad. And again, the argument will be, oh, well, it's good for that, for that mother who stole diapers. Well, that's not the truth, and that's not the real story, and that's not who's being held in jails when they're held pretrial for crimes.
Well, don't let the truth get in the way of their narrative.
We're going to have to see. This will be visited the suburbs, as we've been talking about all morning, and somebody's kid, unfortunately, I'm not promoting this. I'm not hoping this happens. I'm just describing what's going to happen because we're seeing it happen. So I'm just confronting reality. Somebody's kid at DePaul or Loyola is going to get hurt even more seriously than the kids at Loyola and DePaul that were beaten up and robbed and pistol whipped over the weekend. And that's the only way, it seems to me, that you're going to get any resonance. You just have to reach critical mass of families who've had a family member truly victimized by a system they don't appreciate, whose implications they don't appreciate.
Yeah, we've been doing the reporting too, as you talk about the spread. We've been doing the reporting of the number of youth in Chicago who are getting shot or killed, and the number's phenomenal. And the ages go down to 16, and then 15, and 14, and 12, and the numbers keep growing. Well, in the last few weeks, there's been some reports of a 16-year-old to 14-year-old, and I thought, okay, well, that's going to make the numbers bigger in Chicago. Well, it's not in Chicago; it's outside of Chicago in the suburbs. So that's kind of the tell number for me is that as these numbers grow of young kids, 14-year-olds, you know that it's spiraled. I mean, it's always been out of control, but now it's spiraling in a different out of control.
No, you mentioned, I want to know what the latest is on the EV battery plant that's supposedly coming here into the Chicago suburbs.
Well, yeah, that's doesn't get a whole lot of attention from the big media, but what we found out is Goshen is a Chinese company, very close ties to the CCP, and Pritzker was 0 for 20 or whatever it was, 0 for 18 in trying to get an EV battery factory to come into Illinois. Well, he finally won one, but it turns out to be a highly controversial one. Goshen is trying to build a plant in Michigan, started about a year ago. Massive pushback there, huge congressional pushback against it. There's a grassroots pushback against it. And what we're looking at is the one in Illinois will have an $8 billion taxpayer subsidy. It's a $2 billion plant to build, $8 billion in subsidies. And guess where it's coming from? The Inflation Reduction Act. So you've got all this industrial policy. Jim Uriel was talking about this earlier. It's this industrial policy. Biden and team have decided they want EVs. They're going to hand out billions and billions to corporations, and that in itself is bad. But what's not being asked about enough in Illinois is, well, wait a minute. Not only are we giving away all this money, but it's going to a Chinese company with sensitive, this is battery power will become a national security supply chain issue, and we're just giving away $8 billion in taxpayer subsidies, $500 million from Illinois, and the $7.5 billion from the federal government.
That sounds like to me.
Just one thing is it.
Well,
just one thing, Dan. And nobody's asking the questions about has this been vetted? What about the national security issues? And so you got a lot of legislators pushing back. You've got Mike Boss joining Rubio on asking Yellen, hey, have you done the due diligence? There's a special form to see whether this company meets the requirements of our national security and safety. So anyway, it needs a lot more attention. Wirepoints, Jeannie Eyes is doing a great job on it too, but nobody's talking about it yet. So
Well, what that sounds like to me, and the governor feels the same way I do. It sounds like xenophobia. Sounds like MAGA Republicans promoting xenophobia because they don't want a foreign-owned company to come to Illinois and create jobs and make life better for people, and I just don't understand it.
Yeah, it's supposed to create 2,600 jobs, but when you look at the subsidies, it's $3 million of taxpayer money per job. I mean, it's crazy. And then if you think about it that way, it's $3 million per job going to support Chinese technology. So I think what we want at Wirepoints is we just want a full vetting of the issue. And there's a lot of great people. By the way, Ford just announced that it's holding back. It's on pause. They're building of a plant, EV plant in Michigan with the Chinese, and they're catching a lot of hell for that investment too. So I think a lot of attention needs to be put on this. My colleague Mark Glenn has done a great job of writing about it, so we have a lot on Wirepoints.
Well, it's the same old story. It's you MAGA Republicans, you xenophobes. You're challenging the good news of Goshen in Manteno. You're challenging the good news in Chicago with this panel the House Judiciary Committee is doing today on criminal conduct that we were talking about. I mean, it's, MAGA Republicans are making the city and state almost unlivable, don't you think?
Yeah, it's fascinating how, what's funny is that, the guys in charge, they got super majorities, the Democrats do. And if you look at every statistic, if you want to ignore the xenophobia and all that, you just look at the statistics, and we're, the homicide center of the country. 11 straight years where we've led the country in homicides. We've got an arrest rate of 5%. What do we do with that? It's all the stuff they own. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, the Chicago real estate loans, the commercial real estate loans, worst in the country. Pritzker's got to own that, and the press isn't making him own that, but that's the big challenge we all have.
One of the other things MAGA Republicans are responsible for is the Chicago public school system, which they're obviously in control of. And you over at Wirepoints did some data crunching the other day, and what we've seen just over the last 4 years is spending has increased quite a bit, and academic performance when it comes to reading and doing math at grade level has declined, right?
Yeah, it's fascinating, right? I mean, you're talking about people who are struggling in Illinois, struggling in Chicago, I should say. Taxes keep going up; they all go up. Per spending student at CPS is up from about 21,000 to almost 30,000 in just 4 years. 30,000 that gets into a good university somewhere, and yet just 8 out of 100 black kids can read at grade level. Can do math at grade level. 8 out of 100. It's phenomenal. I mean, that's like nothing. You'd probably be better off doing something totally different, or not having school open for Hispanic is 13% on math. So these schools, and remember, it's pretty much a 90% black and Hispanic school these days. It is there's hardly any whites there anymore. There's a few Asians. So they can't read, they can't do math. Why have it open? Why waste taxpayer money? Why not find a different method? Like, how about school choice?
The Ku Klux Klan could not design a system more destructive to minority children than the Chicago public school system, run by Brandon Johnson and Tony Preckwinkle, Stacey Davis Gates, and the Teachers Union, and Karen Lewis before this crew, and on down the line. Wonderful service to the people, and all of the awfuls on the lakefront and in Lakeview and all the ritzy neighborhoods, all conspiring, and their big response to all of this human destruction is the MAGA boogeyman. It's really something, and people buy this. It almost is enough to make you lose faith in people, at least the people in Chicagoland. Ted Dabrowski, President Wirepoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Ted, thank you as always.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Urgent Camp Lejeune settlement message. On September 6th, the government announced it will soon begin providing fast, guaranteed settlements to Camp Lejeune Marines, families, and civilians. Awards will range between $100,000 and $550,000, with an option for higher amounts. If you or a loved one spent time at Camp Lejeune and suffered cancers of the bladder, liver,